Hey everybody, another question about faith and Christianity, and this one's from a student fresh off the press. This student asked the question, what do you think Jesus or Christianity have done or did that another religion couldn't have done? Like, what makes it special? What makes it stand out? And this came in the context. We were talking, what's the impact of Jesus and Christianity? And I asked the students to consider, okay, if Jesus never walked the earth, what do you think would have happened? Like, what would have been the difference if Jesus was not a part of human history? And one student said, well, another religion would have taken its place. And I think that's a really common understanding of the role of Christianity. And I think it's a really valid question to ask. Okay, well, what makes your religion different? Like, why would you choose religion? Why should anyone choose Christianity over any other religion if they basically say the same thing? Totally valid, and there's a really good answer to it. Now, I think every religious tradition is going to have some kind of answer to that. Not every tradition is saying that they're for every person. Some religious traditions say, no, that just belongs to us, and that's who we are, and it sets us apart. But Christianity is something that says, our door is welcome to every people of every nation from every culture. Yep. So what is different about Jesus that makes us think that actually this is big and important for everyone? So there's the statement, Jesus is God. Okay, that's a faith statement. And that's what Christians affirm. But you don't have to affirm that statement nor to see some historical evidence or some things about the Jesus of history that are different from anybody else in all of human history. And that's what I want to talk about. So the first thing that we notice is that, especially compared with the other figures in the Bible, okay, so Jesus stands out in the Bible for this, but also other religious figures that I've seen throughout that actually I don't know anybody else who has actually has a record like Jesus. And that is, Jesus performed miracles. He taught wisdom, and he had his message. He had his mission that he was bringing, and through all of those, he said, this is my mission. This is what I'm doing. And all the other religious figures that I am aware of said, God has given me his message. I am speaking on behalf of God. Or if there's some sort of great miracle or some sort of great deed of power, they said, God's performing this great deed of power. We are praying for him to do it, and he has said that he would do it, and he's going to do it, right? Jesus never does any of that. Jesus only says, I want to. He only says, this is my message. I say to you. So in the historical record of the Gospels, Jesus is really clear that while he's sent to earth by his Father, he's sent with the power of God within him. Okay? And so he's saying, this is what I'm doing. I'm not praying for God to do this. I'm doing it. So that's one distinction that's really, really remarkable, especially within the Bible. The other thing is really distinct in all of human history, and that is Jesus actually claimed to be God. Now, this is a historical thesis. Did the Jesus of Nazareth who walked the earth claim to be God? And I think there's very strong historical evidence to say yes, he did. But it's disputed. Some people accessing different evidence and also interpreting it in different ways would say, no, that seemed to have arisen after. I don't agree with it, but some people say that. But here's the thing. The Gospels have this record of Jesus being accused of claiming to be the Son of God. And that was on a criminal trial for his life. And then in the trial, he could have found it out. He could have said, whoa, actually, no, you misunderstood me. I'm actually sent by God. I'm not that. But he didn't. He could have basically backtracked and saved his life. But he did not. Okay, so all of those, that's pretty solid historical evidence that he claimed to be God. And to my knowledge, no person, no human being ever in all of the history of humanity has seriously claimed to be God and seriously convinced more than a handful of people of that claim, right? So that's actually pretty distinctive, that Jesus not only behaved and acted and then in the end claimed and did not deny that he was the Son of God. He did so at risk of his life, And for some reason, people believed him. Christians believe that the reason is the resurrection, that when they saw Jesus rise from the dead by his own power, they were their sense that he was actually God was confirmed. So that's the Christian thing. But the big thing is that he at least made the claim, he was killed for it, and nobody else has actually been able to, for more than a handful of seconds, convince somebody that they are God, right? It could be delusional, it could be mental illness, but nobody else besides Jesus. Okay, and the last thing has to do with his message, and this is one that actually we kind of take for granted. Actually, some of the things that Jesus said were absolutely radical. They continue to be radical, but we kind of take for granted a few things, like every human person deserves to be protected and loved, and has human rights. We didn't really have that before Jesus, and it was the way that he lived and what he taught that brought it to a seriousness that allowed it to enter into like really serious laws within kingdoms, within empires, to begin to say universal human rights are a thing. Now, I'm not going to say that nobody had occurred to nobody, because in some ways it just makes sense, right? It just makes sense that every human being should have the same rights as every other human being. It actually doesn't make sense for some humans to have super rights and some humans not to have rights, right? But the way that Jesus presented it and the way that he lived it out, and ultimately the way that he went to the cross and died. So lots of people have been killed for justice. Lots of people have been killed for righteousness or for piety or for their belief in God. But the way that Jesus went to the cross is that he never for a single moment said to anybody else, you should, or he never tried to control people. He never tried to say, you know what, I'm going to knock that spear out of your hands before you can stab me with it. I'm going to knock that hammer and nails out of your hands before you can nail me to the cross. Not only his message, but the way that he lived it out is ultimately unique. And when we see the cross, we're reminded of that, but we see the cross so often in post-Christian Western society that sometimes we become a little blind to, nobody else has done something like that unless you count the martyrs who did it in imitation of Jesus, where they said, I'm going to love you, I'm going to say the truth, but I'm never going to try to protect myself. I'm never going to try to use violence against you, even if you're using violence against me. Okay, so those are three things that really set Jesus apart. I think there's another video on Christianity itself, but one of the things that Christians really want to communicate and make sure that other people understand, even if they aren't a part of the Christian tradition, is that Jesus really was unlike anybody else who's ever walked the earth. And we can keep talking about it because it's a historical discussion. And so we don't have to have the same faith in order to look at that and see what makes Jesus different. Thanks so much for the great question. Lots to keep unpacking there, but I'm going to cut it off for now and see you in the next video.